Hello everyone, I'm Ron Grant coming to you live and direct from Tortola in the Virgin Islands. You're watching 284 Media. Journey to Elections 2023. You're watching Just for the Record. We're today joined by 9th District candidate for the Progressive Virgin Islands movement, Shereen Flax Charles. We'll be right back after a quick commercial break.
There are many ways to enjoy life, like so many ways to count on Popular.
Rashford made it. Manchester United have come from behind to lead.
At home or on the go, watch CCT Live. Download our app and carry your favorite TV shows, news, or live sports anywhere you go. Visit cctbvi.com/live, select your package, and tune in.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. Welcome back, everyone. You're watching Just for the Record, Journey to Elections 2023. As promised, I'm joined by Shereen Flax Charles, 9th District candidate in the upcoming general elections on the Progressive Virgin Islands movement ticket. Mrs. Charles, welcome back to our studios and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ron. It's great to be here as always.
The pleasure is all mine. The last time we sat down like this was 4 years ago. It's hard to believe that the time has gone by so quickly. A lot has happened, particularly the COVID-19 pandemic. You have served in the capacity of Junior Minister for Trade. There was a switch as well with the Junior Minister position. So you've had an opportunity to sit in a number of different seats over the past 4 years. I want to begin here. You've served one term. Why have you now decided to put your hat back in the ring to represent the people, and not as an at-large candidate, but specifically for the 9th District? How did that decision-making process come about?
Well, Ron, first of all, I want to say a big thank you to the people of the territory. I also want to say that I had the opportunity to serve both as the Junior Minister of Tourism as well as the Junior Minister for Trade and Economic Development, and Agriculture and Fisheries was also added to the portfolio. I am well-rounded, and so I believe it gave me a better scope of what was happening in the territory and being able to expose myself to many more persons throughout the territory. I decided to contest the 9th District seat because of the overwhelming request from residents, both on Virgin Gorda and Anegada. And so I talked it over with my family and we felt it would be best. Now, I am the type of person, Ron, that the BVI is me. I am the BVI. And so for me, I know that some persons were not very happy that I made that decision, in the sense that they were looking forward to voting for me again. And many, many, many persons have told me that. But what I want to reassure the population of this territory, I am here for all of you. Yes, my focus will be on the 9th District, but my focus is really and truly, it has to be a double-edged. It has to be about the entire territory as well.
Understood. Now, just for the record, in speaking to persons, some persons have described you as difficult, hard to work with. When you hear these types of terminologies in reference to your character, what do you say?
I say, get to know me. I'm approachable. Difficult to work with? I don't believe so. What I would say to you is that persons don't like opposition. In this field, persons want you to agree with everything that they want to move forward with. I'm not a yes person. And I've said that in the House. I think it was the last session that we had in December. I'm not a yes person. So if I don't believe that it is the right thing for the people of the territory, and in my future endeavors as the district representative for the 9th, if it's not good for the 9th, if it's not good for the people of the BVI, I won't say yes. So if that determines my being difficult, so be it. Because I believe that I was brought up to know what is right and what is wrong. And I was also brought up to be able to speak my mind. And so that is what I do. Everyone won't agree with me, but being difficult, I don't think so.
Okay.
Being a yes person, I will never be.
Understood. I'm happy that you use the term in describing that scenario as persons don't like opposition. In addition to what I just mentioned, there are persons who have said she was seemingly one of, or perhaps the only member sitting on the ruling party who opposed when necessary. I want to talk about that aspect because you mentioned about this job, in this role, persons always wanting to agree with you. There are persons who are of the opinion that any member who has sat on an administration, whether it be the past 4 years or perhaps in successive governments, was a part of the problem. When we talk about the Commission of Inquiry and a lot of the events, let's look specifically at the last 4 years. A lot has taken place. What do you say to persons who would say, yes, she was one of the few members who opposed, but also to the persons who say, well, Shereen, you sat there and you only now crossed over to the latter part of the elections?
Well, what I would say to persons is that the public would not have known a lot of the things that were going wrong if I didn't speak up. I would never have known about those things if I had gone over to the opposition. There are very close circles within the system. And even sitting on the government side in the previous government, there were lots of things that we just had no clue about. You would hear things, you would ask questions, and the information was not forthcoming. I'll give you a little story, Ron. A couple of weeks ago, I was going on the ferry to Anegada, and I was reading the two reports, the Easy Shipping report and the Claude Skelton-Klein report. And I was so involved in that, I didn't even realize that tears were coming down my face. It was a tourist that said, "Ma'am, are you okay?" She pounded on the table. And then I literally caught myself and she said, "Is something wrong? You're crying." Because there were so many things in those reports that I can say I wasn't privy to. And so for me, I was just as surprised as the population here was when they had the opportunity to read those reports. So, you know, I come from a big family, 7 of us, 6 siblings I have, and you will always have disagreements.
Of course.
I've played team sports for many years, softball and volleyball. And so when you work with a team or you figure you're on a team, you're going to do everything in your power to keep things together. You figure, you know what, I might be able to influence persons to do the right thing. So in a family, you have disagreements. You don't, sometimes yes, and in my case, I had to move myself away. But my feeling was that let's try to make this thing work. We can turn this thing around. After April 28th happened, all of us dug in and we were determined to work together to keep England from suspending our constitution. And what I would say, there were certain turns of events where I realized that we were going back down into that dark hole. And so decisions had to be made. And I made the decision that I felt was best for the people of this territory. And that was to join forces with the Progressive Virgin Islands movement.
I'm happy that you mentioned joining forces with the Progressive Virgin Islands movement. What attracted the movement to you, or what attracted The move, either way, who attracted
horse.
who, and what was the defining factor in choosing? Because
Well,
we all know that there are other political parties.
Right. Well, I'll tell you, they were very courteous. They were attentive. Whatever questions I had about moving on and joining with them, they were so engaged with it. They didn't miss a beat. When I called, they answered. When I sent a message, they answered. It might not have been right away because all of us are busy. But one of the things that I want to say, and I want to thank the Honorable Mitch Turnbull, because throughout the 4 years, he has supported me. He was on the opposition, yes. And then when the unity government formed, we were one party, you must say. But the encouragement that he has given me over the years, I could not put a price on it. And so because of that, I felt that it would be the best place for me to continue working for the people of the territory. And, you know, him and I have had disagreements because we won't agree on everything, but we were able to come to a compromise and continue with the good relationship that we have. And he's a fighter. He loves the BVI just as much as I do. And the other members on the team as well. I've known Honorable Skelton for many, many years. And I've always looked up to him. I think he exudes stability. And that was one of the reasons why I decided to join forces with the PVIM.
Understood. Now, the Progressive Virgin Islands movement, when I observe, is not the only party, but they too have quite a number of women on the slate, at large as well as district. I want to talk about women in leadership because for far too long we've heard that women are not given equal opportunities, they're not respected in or outside of the boardrooms. Speak to that and your experiences as a female legislator and your ability to be able to get things done. What were some of the oppositions, or what has been your experience in that regard? Stay tuned for more Just for the Record right after this.
Yo, everything good, Dad?
Aye. This thing got me one way, Daddy.
What you mean?
Ever since I hook up with this thing, I can't eat, I can't sleep. This is the first thing I touch it when I reach home.
What you really? Hey, this thing like you know.
Dad, this thing got me staying home, keeping out of trouble me.
Wow. What your name is?
Shit. I talking about my CCT life.
Don't worry about missing your favorite series, sports, news, and local programming. Come to CCT today and sign up for CCT Live to access over 80 channels. CCT Live. Bring it home.
1 month free trial turned into 5. 5 months turned into, well, you know I huff. I watching ball. I been watching football. Dad, Nickelodeon, Paw Patrol. I am hooked. Hook, I tell you.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. I want to talk about women in leadership because for far too long we've heard that women are not given equal opportunities, they're not respected in or outside of the boardrooms. Speak to that and your experiences as a female legislator and your ability to be able to get things done. What were some of the oppositions, or what has been your experience in that regard?
Well, I'll tell you, I think that within the 4 years, women were not respected. I believe that women bring a lot to the table. We do think different than men, But I think if we came together, we would move miracles. I will say this, Ron. The Old Boys Club is alive and well within the House of Assembly. I see it play out on a daily basis. And for me, it's not about wanting power and authority. It's wanting an equal opportunity to help the persons of this territory. And I don't see where it happens on a regular basis. And so if you're not in a position where you're able to call the shots, then you're tossed on the side. I was told one time, what more do you want? I gave you a Jeep to drive in Tortola. Now that Jeep does not belong to me, it's the people's Jeep. And I want to do whatever I can. I've been in situations where, you know, the women really are not respected at all. And sometimes you don't respond to some of the things that might be said or done because we deal with things differently. But what I want to say to the people of this territory, as a woman, and I've said it before, as a mother, we bring a lot to the table because we treat, if we have children, we can't treat all of them one child one way, one the next. If you have one loaf, you have to separate that loaf in three if you have 3 children. And sometimes you go without a piece of bread to make sure that your children are fed. And so women bring a lot more than just looking pretty and dressing nicely to the table. And so I believe that the PVIM team of women will bring a lot to the House of Assembly. And we are prepared to work with everyone throughout the territory, and especially the young people.
Understood.
We want to work with young people to take them. They are going to control the territory in the coming years. And that's why I'm happy too that Mr. Stacy Budamata is on our team, because he brings a wealth of knowledge. He's in tune with the young people. And so we have a well-rounded team, Ron, and I'm very, very happy for that.
All right. I want to segue to the focus of the 9th District, all right, from Anegada to Virgin Gorda,
Yes.
and of course, not forgetting that the 9th District Sister Islands includes a lot of the smaller keys as well. Some are uninhabited, but just for the public's knowledge.
Yes, the
Necker
dogs,
Island, the dogs, Cooper Island as well.
Prickly Pear and so forth, yes.
All right. When we look at Virgin Gorda, that is where you are from.
Yes,
all right.
That's where my navel string is buried. That cedar tree is still there, Fisher's
as
Cove.
they would see. When you look at the issues that are affecting the people of Virgin Gorda, tell us about some of them and how you plan to, if elected, address them.
Well, I'll tell you, Ron, there's so many issues. We would be here until tomorrow
What are your
and
top,
beyond.
your top few?
I would say water, sewage, healthcare, and medical evacuations, infrastructure, the ports, beautification. I can go on, and youth development needs to come to the forefront. We have a lot of talented youth. We need to provide the opportunities for them. Agriculture is a passion that I have, and I've been working very closely with Mr. Janai Call, who is so passionate about agriculture. And I want to be able to give persons like him an opportunity to excel and to show what they can do and contribute to the betterment of the BVI.
All right. When we look at Anegada, I can't tell you the cries that I see and I hear on a daily basis. And I've always felt in my spirit that Anegadians are perhaps, if not, some of the most resilient of these Virgin Islands. They feel left out. They feel forgotten. Something as simple as transportation being able to come to and from Anegada? If elected, again, let's talk about Anegada. What is your focus? Or what are some of your focus points?
I will tell you, transportation is a big one. But not only for getting persons back and forth from Anegada. I remember days when I would go to Anegada and I don't get back to Virgin Gorda until 10 at night. That has improved a bit. But transportation for the regular passenger who's coming over to shop or do whatever on Tortola is fine. But one of their biggest challenges is the medical evacuation from Anegada. If there's an accident, someone getting sick that needs to be evacuated, we need to prioritize that. I've been in Anegada when there were accidents or persons got sick and needed to be moved. I had to drop everything myself to and make calls to try to speed up the process. We must find a way. We must put money in that budget to deal with medical evacuations from Anegada. The port in Anegada, the seaport, needs to be declared a port of entry. It needs a vast amount of improvement as well. There's some road infrastructure that needs to be addressed also. And of course, the infamous land issue. Persons need to get their deeds, and I am very disappointed that that has not happened. I have to give kudos though to the Anegada Lands Committee as well as their chairman, Daryl Ruan, for pulling things together and getting it to where it is today. But I believe that development in Anegada can be so much more. You have persons that have been living on a property, or they built a business on the property, but they cannot go to the bank to improve their property or to invest in their property because they don't have that one piece of paper
to say that they even own the property.
Exactly, and it stifles development. And Anegada is doing well, but it can do so much better. And persons want to develop. They have grandiose ideas. But if you don't have the documentation to go to the bank won't loan you a cent because you don't have a deed for that property if you want to use the property as collateral.
Understood.
And so it is time now that Anegadians are given what is rightfully theirs. And I've been fighting for it, and I will never stop fighting. I will brag that I have been the only representative that can say that I have traveled the whole of this BVI more than anyone else. And I endeavor my very level best to get to Anegada once a week, unless I'm traveling for business or family matters or so forth. And it's important that they feel wanted and supported. But what I think needs to happen, we've been bandying about these two wards district council. Based on what I've heard the structure should be, I'm not in favor of that. We need an Anegada Island administration. We need a Virgin Gorda Island administration. We need a Jas Van Dyke Island administration. I'm doing the research, I'm doing a lot of reading and on how the Nevis Island administration works. That is what we need for the sister islands.
I have to ask you, when you use the word island administration, is that similar to an island elected representative? What is the difference?
It would be a number of persons being elected. But the most important thing is having your own budget.
Okay.
And all of the funds, all of the taxes and everything that's collected comes to one central place, unless you're a statutory board. What portion do we get? Yes, Anegada might only have 300-400 persons, But I was there, today is Friday, I was there on Wednesday, and you had over 100 yachts. Those persons are paying their environmental tax, they're paying their departure tax, whether they're leaving by the seaport or the airport. What percentage of those funds really come back to Anegada or Virgin Gorda or Jasper Dyke? And one hand cannot clap. We have to do things simultaneously across the board in order for the islands to develop equally. We developed the Pier Park. There were lots of issues there, but it's working well for the BVI. But we didn't develop the port in Virgin Gorda, where the majority of the persons that come off the cruise ship come off. It's always congested. Even the ferry port here in Tortola. We need to have a more efficient system, and we need to improve on just the aesthetics of these places. But for Anegada and Virgin Gorda, I think those things will work in terms of a body that works and puts some of the projects together. There are certain things that the central government will still have to do, but that needs to happen, and that's one of the things I'm going to be pushing for. And we also need Anegada really and truly should have their own representative that lives on Anegada, who is there when the water goes off, who understands the needs of the people, because you live there. I go there often enough and I understand. I cry with them, I laugh with them, I'm there for them. But things need to evolve. They need to be able to have a seat at the table as well.
Understood. One of the most pivotal moments in our history and over the last 4 years, of course, there were incidents with the former leadership and arrest. But I want to touch on the Commission of Inquiry, which was and still is very defining for us. What is your view on the recently concluded Commission of Inquiry? Do you view the findings as a fair representation of what has transpired in the Virgin Islands over the past 2 decades? Stay tuned for more Just for the Record right after this.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here. My name is Kamal Haynes. Most of you know me from 284 News, but now you get to see me in a different light on my very own show called Health is Wealth. We have Joel Turnbull.
I don't want you to arch your back when you're pulling down.
Milton McLean.
First of all, right, your footwork.
Stephen Payne.
That was a 9 out of 10. I know you got the service down pat.
Steve Augustine.
You did a pretty hard workout today, so perhaps...
And as you can see, it's actually
you're feeling it.
Alonzo Boynes.
Taekwondo.
Adam Murrows.
I'll speak as if you're an absolute beginner.
I am an absolute beginner.
You are an absolute beginner.
And Seth Graham.
It bites.
It will bite.
Everything
Get your water, get your fruits and veggies, and experience a wealth of knowledge about getting healthy.
Today, I am doing cowbell treatments with Beyond the Reef. Today, we are doing shark research. So today, we are doing whale research with Beyond the Reef. And wherever I go, I take CCT with me because my life is unlimited.
Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. One of the most pivotal moments in our history and over the last 4 years, of course, there were incidents with the former leadership and arrest. But I want to touch on the Commission of Inquiry, which was and still is very defining for us. What is your view on the recently concluded Commission of Inquiry? Do you view the findings as a fair representation of what has transpired in the Virgin Islands over the past 2 decades?
Well, I will tell you, and some people may not like it, but in the 4 years that I have observed, I've been able to be in spaces where I would have never been in if I were not elected. We must admit that we have a lot of cleaning up to do. I have a young man in Virgin Gorda. He's a trained EMT. He wants to venture into a business on his own while still assisting with the public healthcare system where necessary. Why is it taking him 5 months to get his trade license?
Still, you still are, but
yes.
As former, essentially former junior minister of trade, why would that happen? Why are situations like that taking place?
Systems are not in place, and we cannot continue to use the word that we're short-staffed. We have to put persons in place to do the work. Now, as a junior minister for trade, I don't approve licenses. So unless someone calls me and said, listen, Ms. Flax, I have an application in and I'm not hearing anything, or when I do call, I hear that, it's in progress. No, I applaud the persons who work in the department, but what needs to happen, policies and procedures and regulation needs to be written. And I think that's where the COI was going, because today I would come in and I use trade as an example, and I want to apply for a trade license to open, let's just say off the top of my head, a clothing store. You come, you want the same, and you get an approval conditionally, but both persons, it's not the same conditions. Then we want to ask persons that they need to have a storefront or they need to have a website. But it's 2023. You don't need to pay big money for a website when you can promote your stuff on Facebook for a fee, of course, if you're a business. But these are some of the things that I think they were looking at, the systems, standard operating procedures within the entire service. And I know that they're working to transform and get things done. But that is the way the system should work. You have a checklist, these are the things you need. You have those, your paperwork processes in a smoother way. And that, to me, with the COI, I think that is where a lot of the challenges came. Yes, there might be issues that I might not know about, but I believe that we need to run a well-oiled machine. And I'll say it, I've worked in the private sector, and, on the outside looking in, this is the perfect place for me to go and walk. And when you get there, it's something different. But I believe in standard operating procedures.
Okay.
Those things guide the employees, and it would guide the civil servants. They would know what they have to do, unless, of course, legislation changes. And I remember years ago, I would call a government department, and I would call on Virgin Gorda, they'll tell me one thing, and I would call the same department in Tortola, and they would tell me the same thing, a different thing, sorry. Now, from a business perspective too, I know businesses that have suffered because they could not get that work permit processed on time. And if they do get that, when it goes to immigration, it's supposed to take 7 days max. There are persons that are waiting for months for an immigration clearance. I know that because persons come to me, they show me the documentation. We have to do better on that.
I'm glad we're on the civil service, and I'll ask you this. I'll be very frank. And it's not just trade. You have other departments.
Of course.
Right? You
course.
mentioned that you don't want, or you don't think that we should continue to use the excuse of being understaffed. So understaffed is one. You talk about standard procedures. If legislators themselves, or legislators like yourself, who are over certain agencies like trade, are not able to, and I understand where persons don't want to directly interfere, but if our legislators are not able to fix some of these issues, like the understaffing issues, like the salary increments, how on God's green earth do we expect the people working in the civil service to have any level of betterment when it comes to their service if they're understaffed, if they're not being paid? What do we expect?
Listen, what I would say to you is this. The way that it is structured, it is very difficult for me as a junior minister. I've been told by persons, you're not my boss. And so there's a process. Yes, I'm the junior minister for trade. I can only lobby, talk. I can't sign a document. And I don't necessarily need to sign a document. And persons need to be paid for what they're worth. Frankly, the civil service is way underpaid. Way underpaid. And I've been in that office a little bit more regular, and I see the work that they push out. Most people don't go home early. They can't, because they know that somebody's dependent on them. And frankly, I believe that the civil service with the whole pay scale, it needs to be looked at again, and I understand that is happening. But that amazed me, and I was shocked when I saw some of those salaries when I first got elected. They can't live on it. Not in the BVI. And so a concerted effort has to be made. Now someone will apply for a job. Persons call me all the time, oh, I need a job, I need a job. I can't interfere in that process. I can guide them, fill the application out. This is where you find it online. You send it to HR or to the department that you're interested in working at, and then the process there is supposed to happen. Okay. Sometimes persons complain they don't even get an acknowledgement of a receipt of their documents, etc. I've had to take documents for persons more than once because then somehow it can't be found. But I believe if we make our employees happy, they will be more efficient. But if you're working for $1 and your grocery bill is $5, there's a disconnect, and emotionally persons can't be efficient on a job when they have to be worrying, how am I going to buy food to eat, or how am I going to pay my electricity bill? When you compare the salaries in different islands, or if you want to use the United States as an example, our salaries are way too low. We're losing doctors, we're losing nurses, we're losing teachers, we're losing great executives because we don't pay them enough money. And persons might say, do it for country. I'm all for that. But if you can't pay your rent or can't pay the mortgage now, then we now have another issue to deal with.
Indeed.
And so we must fix those things, and a priority has to be given to increasing the salaries. When I worked at the tourist board, what we did at the tourist board, there was a cost of living allowance every year. Plus, there was appraisals being done, and it was based on your performance on the job, would determine what percentage of a raise you would get, if any. And to me, that's a system that we need to go to in the private sector. I do believe that the $6 minimum wage has to be increased. And there are a lot of persons that are paying their employees more than $6. But the $6 minimum wage is not a livable income in the BVI anymore. And maybe it never was. I remember my first job, I was making $4 an hour. I think back on it and I'm like, oh my God, how did I survive? You have to be creative. You have to be innovative. But we must pay people what they want. And it is important. The businesses, persons are worried about that in terms of, okay, prices are going to go up if I have to pay more in salaries. However, I think when employees are happy, they are more efficient. They do what they have to do. And so there's a domino effect there.
Of course.
Where businesses will also do better and will be able to pay their employees better.
When it's all said and done, the people will go to the polls on election day.
Yes.
And you are seeking the support of the 9th District. Why should the people of the 9th District elect Shereen Flax Charles?
Why they should elect Shereen Flax Charles is very simple. I'm a walking machine. Somebody told me that you never stop. You're always on the go. I don't know how you do it. You answer your telephone, you answer your email, you're never disconnected from the people. There's a lot to be done in the 9th District. And I'll tell you, overwhelmingly people wanted me to take on the challenge of running for the 9th District because they feel that I'm capable. I'll tell you, COVID happened. The ferry didn't run to St. Thomas since the hurricanes, Speedies.
From Virgin Gorda.
From Virgin Gorda. And it was a fight. It was a battle. But I will tell you, Ron, I do what I have to do without doing anything illegal to get things done. And I think that if we need to work a little bit more with the private sector, and we'll build a better district. There's too much of a disconnect. And it's not about, okay, I'm going to go to this business place and then they're going to be in the pocket or something. No. It's working together so that they benefit and the country benefits. And I have a very wide scope of knowledge that can be put into action for the 9th District. Right. I care about the people. I make sure that I'm always in tune with them. And it is important that persons understand that Virgin Gorda and Anegada right now are the breadbasket of tourism. And I must put Jasper Dyke in there as well. And we don't have the financial services and so forth that Tortola has. However, I believe that I will be the one to make the difference. Persons can relate to me. And as I mentioned before, they reach out to me on a regular. And a seat at the right table will make a difference. I want to segue a little bit to say this, that the system that we have in the House of Assembly has to change, where you have 5 cabinet members and you have 6 people on the back bench. 3 persons in cabinet is the majority. So literally only 3 people make the decisions for this territory. We need to start thinking about that. And we need to think about the fact that what we call the sister islands, persons are asking, should we remain as sister islands, especially with this patriarchal society that we have and the old boys club? Should that name sister be even used? Should we be the family islands or just plain out the Virgin Islands and treat each one equally, ensuring that every single citizen is able to live a comfortable life here in this territory. I believe now is the time for real change in District 9 because we haven't seen a change. And that's what the people in District 9 are saying to me. And they believe in me. They know that I can get things done if given the opportunity. And I would dare to say that when I worked with the Tourist Board, we got a lot done with the public-private partnership. And persons have to feel comfortable when they sit down with me as a District 9 representative. And on the 24th of April, persons are going to need to dig deep and make the right decision. And that right decision is to elect me as the 9th District, Shereen Flax Charles as the 9th District representative.
Thank you so much. We are almost out of time, but I have to ask you some light questions, some fun questions. I think I know the answer to this, but do you have a favorite sister island?
I'll tell you, of course, I was born on Virgin Gorda, but Anegada is like home to me as well. I can't, it's like if I don't go there every week, I feel like a fish out of water.
Gotcha. Do you have a favorite Virgin Islands cuisine?
That's a tough one. I will tell you.
Any VI food that you could eat?
Pea soup with sugar and
milk as well?
Good. Oh yes, my husband is from Antigua. They're not used to that.
Yes.
But I have to have it with the sugar, and I prefer if the sugar is already cooked into it and not have to add it.
Understood.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite Virgin Islands rum or drink?
What do I say to that? Because I am a wine connoisseur.
Okay.
However, I do dabble. I love passion fruit and anything with mango.
Gotcha.
And of course, if it's a tat, it have to be guava.
We're on that same page. Shereen Flax Charles, first of all, thank you for this conversation. And secondly, thank you for exercising your democratic right and running for representation within the House of Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Ron, I want to thank you and your team here for doing such a great job. And I just want to say to the people of the 9th District, the real time for change in District 9 is now. We need to make that change and elect Shereen Flax Charles as your 9th District representative in the next House of Assembly. I'm a walking machine.
All right, viewers,
Thank
you heard it
you.
here. Just for the record, with Shereen Flax Charles, the Progressive Virgin Islands Movement 9th District candidate in the general 2023 elections. I'm Ron Grant. Have a beautiful rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I got here. My name is Kamal Haynes. Most of you know me from 284 News, but now you get to see me in a different light on my very own show called Health is Wealth. We have Joel Turnbull.
I don't want you to arch your back when you're pulling down.
Milton McLean.
First of all, right, your footwork.
Stephen Payne.
That was a 9 out of 10. I know you got the service down pat.
Steve Augustine.
You did a pretty hard workout today, so perhaps...
And as you can see, it's actually
you're
impacting
feeling it.
Lonzo Boynes.
Taekwondo.
Adam Murrows.
I'll speak as if you're an absolute beginner.
I am an absolute beginner.
You are an absolute beginner.
And Seth Graham.
It bites.
It will bite.
Get your water, get your fruits and veggies, and experience a wealth of knowledge about getting healthy.